All right, family. I'm going to give everyone a minute to just come back into the live. I had to start another one because I was talking for more than an hour. Blessed love, greetings. I'm just going to let it breathe for just a second more. Give people a chance to come back. And just breathe myself. And if you're here in the live, I encourage you to just take this moment also and just take a few breaths and just breathe. Because one thing they cannot take away from us is our breath and the control we have of our own breath, right? So what I was talking about before is this cleansing that's going on, this death that's happening on a macro and a micro level. And what I really wanted to share is what I'm seeing happening in our community. And so with this raising of consciousness, with us talking about our food and how we eat and what we should and shouldn't eat and how we should and shouldn't live, and becoming more aware of ourselves and habits that don't serve and all of that, it's a beautiful, beautiful thing. And there has been an activation that has happened in the collective mind of the melanated people, of African people, and this resurgence of our power and our truth. But the thing about it is that there is a duality to this, and I felt like, and I know that a lot of people resonate with this as well, because I've spoken to some people, and this is one of the things that really inspired me to do this video, is because what happened was that what was supposed to make us feel liberated actually ended up oppressing us. We were supposed to be liberated by this knowledge and this awareness of self and the awareness of food and how we eat and, the music we listen to and the words we speak. We started feeling, instead of feeling liberated, we started feeling oppressed. And what I mean by this is that, in this, conscious community, and I'm saying that for lack of better words, but you all know what I mean. There is this sense of, like I said, spiritual elitism, where people feel like, I am a spiritual person, so I am better than someone who is not activating their spiritual power. There's a dogma. There are people, for example, a lot of Black people have been indoctrinated by Christianity, and they move out of that. They come into this new awareness, and they come back into more a cosmic and spiritual over an understanding of source, of so-called God, of creator. But they leave the dogma of Christianity, but they create the dogma in spirituality, where it's like, this is the way, this is the answer, this is the way the ancestors did it, this is the way you pray, this is the way, and if you aren't on that vibe, then you can't sit with us, basically. There's this energy of elitism and dogma, the same thing that we have been trying so hard as a people to get away from and to cleanse from. We recreated it again in this new cycle. And there is a lot of judgment in the spirit, the Black conscious spiritual community. And I'm talking about us specifically, okay? I'm talking about us, our community. There's a lot of judgment. You know what I mean? And I will always say that we should hold each other to a high standard in Ma'at. We should have standards for ourselves. But there's a difference between having standards and being in your ego. Like my master said here, many have yet to detach from the ego. And so that is the point that I wanted to make, because we were in this time, remember that era we were in from 2012 to 2020, when we had access to a lot of information. People were getting the information, but they weren't going through their initiations. And so they were having all this info and realizing all of these things, but they never went through the process of initiation and cleansing and death to start to integrate that knowledge. So their ego was still in place as they're trying to talk about all of these things they've realized. And so that is why, I always talk about being initiated. Life is our initiation. Those difficult times we go through that bring us more wisdom and more perspective, those are times that we are initiated. The initiation of all of this occult, esoteric, spiritual, unseen knowledge and wisdom, it doesn't just come from reading books. While that has its place, there is an unseen process of initiation that I must go through in order to truly be able to live the information that we are seeing in these books. Where? Oh, I don't have it near me. So, because of that ego that has been existing in our community, and people not going through that cleansing and that initiation, there's a lot of dogma, a lot of judgment. And because of the component of social media that comes into play as well, people portraying perfection. And that is a byproduct of the programming that they've implemented into this matrix through the social media and through the technology, where the bridge between reality and fiction, or reality and perception of reality, is getting convoluted. And so there is this thing in our community of judging, and what was supposed to make people feel liberated ended up making them feel oppressed. Our great ancestor, Baba Dr. Sebi, is an amazing example of this energy at work, because it was we realize the mucus epidemic. We realize the acidic foods and what it's doing to our bodies. And we're saying, oh, this is one of the pieces. This is one of the keys we need as a people to elevate ourselves. We need to get rid of this acidic, mucus-forming food that causes us to be violent and have mental disorders and learning disabilities and blocks our ability to connect with source and brings us these illnesses. We realize this alkaline eating is what we're supposed to do, because that was the era we were in of information and realizing these things, right? And so people are saying, okay, here's Sebi's list of food. And it's like, I'm going to follow it 110%. I'm only going to eat alkaline food only. And through this, you start to feel liberated. You start to heal your body. But then after a while, because you put something on such a pedestal, that cannot be held and maintained for so long before it starts breaking down. And before that, what once made you liberated is now oppressing you, because there is no balance. And then people are hiding the food they eat because it's not alkaline, or they're hiding the decisions they make because it's not the way that the spiritual community says it should be. And what this does is it creates a shadow that starts to build in our collective. It starts to build this shadow where on the surface things. We look like we're conscious, and we look like we are aware, and we look like we're healthy, and we look like we're only eating, a fruitarian, live it diet, and really we feel oppressed. We feel like we can't be ourselves. Or there's certain things we want to say, we feel like we can't say, or we can't be wrong. And it's just this elitism that exists. And we see it happening if we go back to our ancestors in ancient Kemet. We see the fall of the civilization because we built ourselves up to this pedestal that we could not maintain because it was not in Ma'at. It appeared to be great. It appeared to be beautiful. We appeared to be kings and queens, but we were not fully integrated. And so what I'm starting to see happening now is people saying, you know what? I don't want to live like this. I want to be healthy. I want to purify my temple and cleanse. And I want to do all these things. And I want to make good decisions and live Aitao and live at a heights. But I don't want to feel like I'm in prison. I don't want to feel like I'm being judged if I falter. There's many people who are trying to transition their lifestyle into this kind of consciousness, and they're having a really difficult time because of the amount of judgment and ridicule that exists in the very place that is supposed to be what helps them shift into their elevation. People are seeking out guidance and seeking out support, but aren't able to find it in its purity because there's so much judgment. And I have never been able to resonate with that. And I haven't been able to communicate it until now, as this portal is open. And I'm starting to really be able to synthesize what I'm seeing and put it into words for us to talk about. Because, there's and I'm seeing it as I'm observing on social media, and I'm observing in the community. I was talking to someone the other day who I consider a source of trusted. I trust this person's perspective and their character and just their being, right? So I was reasoning with this person the other day, and about something random, not about any of this. And he said to me, I started to think about, and he's not necessarily tuned into this heights of awareness, but he has a strong heart energy. Like, he resonates from like a powerful heart space. But in this lifetime, he has made the decision to kind of be a part of the system, so to speak, more or less. And I'm not here to judge that, because I see his character, I see his heart, I see what he does for our community through economics and things like that. So I can't sit here and say, I know that the missing piece to the elevation is the spiritual component, but I'm not going to judge someone's life journey because of where they're at, because we're all in different places, right? But one thing that he said that let me know that this is a collective shift that's happening. He said, it was something so simple. He was saying, there's, and he is reggae selecta. Like, his crate is amazing. He has music that you have never heard, like dubbed, like amazing. But he also has a wide variety of musical tastes, right? Not just reggae. And so he said, I was thinking the other day, and I realized that there is a certain music, there was a genre of music, he said, that he had stopped listening to as much. But he loves this genre of music, but he stopped listening to it as much because And he was still reasoning through it. So he said, maybe it's because of the people I've been around. I haven't listened to this music that I love as much as I used to. And I miss that. I miss the feeling of that music. And he was like, I think I'm going to start bringing that back in. I'm going to start putting that back into my sound because it's a part of me. And so that's an example of reintegrating things. Another example is I feel like some of you all probably know who these people are, so I'm not even going to use that example I was about to use. But what I will say is there's leaders or pioneers in our community who hold a certain light, and they kind of hold the archetype of what we are striving towards as a people. And they are here for that reason. They have this light. But I've been noticing that people who have been putting themselves on these pedestals as pioneers or as the ones who hold the truth, they're starting to come down off that pedestal a bit. Or people are starting to be able to see past the perfection that they projected out into us. And the reason that is because when we put things on a pedestal, like I keep saying, when we put things on a pedestal, it's hard to maintain that. When we have all these rules, when we have all of these, what I can and can't do if I'm spiritual, what I can and can't eat if I'm wellness conscious, what I can and cannot do, and how I can and cannot look, these are binding, and these are heavy, and these are limiting, and these are bags that we carry. The judgment that we project onto others in our community is a reflection of the judgment that we project onto ourselves. And so we feel heavy. We feel like we can't really be our fullness. And this is not sustainable. It is not sustainable. And so as the image I gave before, as spiraling up our consciousness, pushing through to the next level, and then spiraling up again, and then pushing through to the next level, we are in a moment now of pushing through to the next level, like a seed pushing through the surface of the earth, like transcending our consciousness from a 3D to a 5D and all of these things. And I was talking about earlier how I found myself, and I'm going to bring that back full circle because I started talking about how I found myself going through this death and this elevation of my consciousness, but not really able to shift to that next level. And I realized for me, I was holding on to I was internalizing the judgment that has become so rampant in our community. Because if we're hiding our truth in order to appear a certain kind of way, that creates a shadow, right? And that shadow it's not there, it's there. It starts to permeate the collective consciousness and starts to bind us as a people into a certain place. We can't level up as a people because we're binding ourselves in by dogma and how things should be. And I realized that I was ready to level up, but what was holding me down was this unconscious fear of judgment, right? This unconscious internalization of our collective shadow, if that makes sense. And so what I needed to do for myself was decide that I wasn't about to be a part of all of that, because that's not even me. It never has been. But we all are affected by the collective consciousness that we all contribute to. You understand what I'm saying? And so we have to decide. We have to become conscious of it. And then we have to decide to release that. And so on the scales of Ma'at, because there's the big death when we physically die, and then there's also the little deaths that we go through throughout our physical lifetime. So our heart is put on the scale to the feather many times throughout our life. And we have to be aware of when that judgment day is happening in our own life. And so that heaviness of judgment and dogma and all of these rules, it is heavy. And our heart is not lighter than the feather because we're holding on to all of these things. And we cannot transcend to the next level if we're too heavy. That's basic, basic understanding of like physical weight and the physical reality, right? If something is too heavy, it cannot rise. This is one of the reasons why we stop eating such dense foods like the meat. And again, this is not a judgment. This is going back to truth. And remember, just because I'm saying we shouldn't judge each other doesn't mean we shouldn't hold each other to certain standards. So keep that in mind. And so we are in a time now where it's time to shed that weight. It's time to not to let go of all we have learned, not to let go of our morals and values, the principles of Ma'at, the laws of Tehuti, the things that we know. We need to hold ourselves to these standards, but we need to shed the weight of ego and dogma and judgment from our vessels so that we can integrate all we have learned as a community in our African consciousness and activation. We need to shed the weight of all that shit so that we can rise to the next level as a people. And we need to hold each other accountable for how we're living and how we're, moving through the world, but also hold each other accountable for when we're playing into the ego and judging. Varying levels of readiness. We all need one another. Our vibrations are. Exactly. We need to be able to. There is a collective, like if there's a boat moving through the water, we are moving as a people together. But then within that, and that's why the initiation of your consciousness is so important, and being initiated through this hidden knowledge and this spiritual wisdom, because to really comprehend it, you have to go through a purification of the mind, because things happen on multiple levels. So while we're moving together as a collective, we also have individual ways we're moving, and this is happening simultaneously. We have to understand that these principles and these laws, they don't apply in a linear sense. Everything is happening at once, right? And so, as Master says here, the separation to gain clarity, to elevate the collective. We have to be able to know that we are integrated into a collective consciousness while maintaining our individual sovereignty, because our individual sovereignty will continue to feed the collective consciousness and empower all of us. And so as we shift into this new time, we need to be like on another level of warrior. We need to be on another level of soldier and holding things to a certain kind of heights, holding things to a certain kind of order, and not through the ego lens, not through the ego consciousness, but through the cosmic awareness of what's going on. And so I dedicate myself, I commit myself to being someone who is a keeper of that clarity and is a keeper of that balance and that harmony and that fullness, so that we aren't fragmented in trying to look a certain way or appear a certain way, but so that we truly are living in a truth, because this is not a game. Again, the media and the movies have it in the collective, the mind of the masses, that this what we're reasoning about right now is just, it's science fiction, it's conspiracy, or or it's too big for us little humans to be a part of. That is not true. We are in a time now where we haven't been here before. We are in a time where we have access to so much consciousness, and we have the support from the universe, from spirit, from the Most High, to elevate ourselves and to not repeat the cycles of the past, because we aren't the first human beings. We aren't the first people, so to speak, who have walked this planet in the thousands and thousands and thousands and millions of years that this planet has existed. All right, so I'm not going to go off into all of the ancient civilizations of people who existed thousands and thousands of years ago. But I will say is that those civilizations died. One, because it's the cycle of it's the natural cycle of this universe. Remember, things come to a crescendo and then they die. But also, there are keys that we can use to not repeat those same kinds of mistakes that led up to the dying of these civilizations. Whereas we are reaching a certain kind of awareness where even if our physicality dies, the things that we remembered still live in the ether of the collective consciousness. This is where we're at right now. And so, this is why in ancient Kemet, living by the laws of Ma'at were pivotal, crucial to every single thing. Because once we start going away from the basic laws of Ma'at, we are fragmenting ourselves. We are moving out of our wholeness. And what I want for us as a community is to continue to elevate, continue to heal, but to come into a wholeness consciousness. This is a time about the words like synchronize kept coming to me. And then I went to see Ross Ben do a lecture the other day, and he affirmed so many things I had been intuitively uploading, because he didn't say synchronizing, but he said convergence. So he said that we are in a time of two. We see 2020, that two-ness, right? And in the illusion and the programming is to perceive two as either or. But the truth is that the number two is and also. He used different words, but it's not either or, it's and also. So we are coming into a time of converging. And again, I'm taking it back to technology because we are in a time now, you all, where that is the dominant polar force to our natural spiritual existence. And we see technology. One of the examples that he gave was that of the merging that's happening is through artificial intelligence merging with inanimate objects, for example. We're starting to see this merging happening. And within ourselves, as natural sovereign beings who do not play into the programming of the AI intelligence that is permeating our entire society right now, we do that by integrating, converging, and synchronizing ourself. We need to come back into a wholeness of ourself and integrate our shadow self. For a lot of this year, I don't know if I don't know if Saturn is still in the South Node, but for most of this year, Saturn, the South Node. For most of this year, Saturn has been in the South Node, and what this means is, it's like it's been a time of addressing our shadow seriously, and we've come to a head of that. And it's time to integrate our shadow into our fullness and not live so fragmented. Social media fragments things, it only shows fragments of life. The media on television only shows fragments of things. We need to come into a wholeness consciousness again. And we are in a place right now where we have the momentum and the wisdom and the perception to do that. But we need to hold on to that and keep that in mind as we go through this portal for the next few months as we shift into 2020. We need to keep in mind that we are integrating our full self. So now it's time to die. It's time to die. My question is, have you died yet? Have you died yet? As we're going into 2020, have you died yet? Because if not, it's time to go in and figure out, what is blocking that death, whether that's fear of the unknown or fear of judgment or all these different things. But it's time to die because we are about to be reborn into a whole new level of consciousness, and it can be very beautiful and it can be very powerful for us if we do our part and handle this portal that we're in correctly, or not even correctly, but if we take advantage of this portal that we're in, shedding the things that don't serve, the thoughts that hold you back from realizing your power, your spiritual power, your gifts. The fear, the social anxiety, the shyness, the concern with what other people think, the feeling you aren't ready, the fear of the unknown, feeling like it's too big for you to take on. All of that BS that is blocking and heavy and holding you down from leveling up to the next level. It's time right now in this next month and a half. And that's just, that time frame is it's fluid. It's not, like you got to have it all together by January 1st. But there is an energy permeating right now that you want to tune into and don't let this moment pass you by. Do the work. And I know a lot of people have been feeling and tuning into that energy of like I said, this is supposed to liberate me, but it makes me feel oppressed. The dogma of the Black conscious community and the judgment. I was talking to a young sister the other day, and she was telling me that there's someone in the community that she really looks up to, or that she did for a long time. And that this person, it came out this summer, this time we're in of shifting and things breaking down. This person that the younger sister was looking up to ended up like really putting this younger sister down and like judging her and telling her, she is living like wrong, and just putting her down, as opposed to helping uplift her and shifting. And we cannot continue doing that to each other. We cannot continue putting that out into our collective consciousness. And it is time for us to decide that we will not be a part of this. We will not be a part of this whole elite, I'm better than you, I'm spiritual kind of BS. It's time to tune back into our first eye, our perception, and our wholeness and our truth, so we can be balanced. And the pendulum swings. We had to go into that extreme place we were in order to find our balance again. And that's okay. But we just need to know that this is the time we're in right now of coming back into a balance, coming back into harmony, and continue on this momentum we have as a people, because we are elevating, we are activating, we are shedding things we don't know, we are healing ancestral cycles, we are doing that. But as that was going on, there was this other stuff that was happening that we don't need. All right? So yeah, it's time to synthesize, it's time to balance, it's time to converge all that we know, and come back into our fullness and our wholeness. And so what I want to leave you all with today is just a few questions, one being, like I said, have you died yet? Have you let go of the things that are weighing you down, the ideas that are weighing you down? What do you need to shed in order to free yourself up to elevate higher? What do you need to let go of? Whether that's beliefs, habits, people, all of that. What do you need to let go of in order for you to transcend to the next level? Because as we shift into higher consciousness, we have to raise our frequency. And the whole judgment thing is a low frequency perception of reality. And we're going to start seeing a lot of people's true colors showing. We are going to start seeing a lot of people's true intentions coming through. A lot of people who were holding up a certain kind of image, we're going to start seeing them either fall off that pedestal or choose to step down from it. And I really feel like that is happening now. So yes, that is the message that I have this time around. I love you, Khalil. I really do. And you are someone who is powerful beyond what this society is able to comprehend. And you have to do the work to cultivate your powers. Like a superhero who discovers their powers, and at first they don't know how to use them, but eventually they learn and they master them. And Khalil, that's what I see for you. That's truly what I see for you. So anyway, this is my message. It's time to tune into what's going on. Remember, we are entering into a time now where a lot of things are going to continue breaking down. But it's a potent opportunity for us to start to build up our livity. Okay? And so take advantage of that. Go through your initiation of life. If you're feeling called to do something, or to start a project, or to shift something in your life, or to change everything completely, listen to that, because you're being pulled into a rebirth, and you have the cosmic energy supporting you right now to do that. So take advantage of it. Okay? This isn't just talking. This isn't just concepts, or these are truths. And our ancestors lived based on being tuned into these cycles of life, knowing how to utilize the cosmic energies that are available to them. And this is where we are right now. We have a lot of portals open for us right now. So do the work. Go within and shed yourself of the judgments of perception. All right? Because you know what's up when you look within yourself. And we need spiritual warriors who are going to hold things to a certain kind of standard and not allow people to run rampant with their egos and their illusions. We don't want that contributing to our collective consciousness. Okay? So hold the people around you accountable and hold yourself accountable. So before I go, I need to take some breaths, and you're welcome to join me if you want. I'm going to save these videos so that you can look back at them later if you like. And again, if you want me to send you the math that I was doing for the cycles of the eras in the 9 vortex energy, link me and I will do that. And just have a lot of things coming up to share with you all. I really have gone through and am going through something right now where I'm really shifting, and I have a lot to give and a lot to share, just as far as the works that I do, as far as massage and touch and breath and movement and taking advantage of our physical vessels, because we are living in serious times right now. We need to elevate our energy vortexes so we can move through the world as sovereign beings. So let's just end with one collective breath for our people, for how far we have come, for how much is available to us, and just a breath of gratitude and excitement for what is coming to us. So we'll take an inhale through the nose. Inhale up and exhale. Let's do one more inhale. Your belly should be expanding on your inhale, and exhale. Belly button going into your spine. And one more inhale. And exhale. Give thanks, family. Blessed love. Until the next time. Thank you for being here, and thank you for being someone who is tuned in, who is wanting to do the work, who is going to be a part of this next level of activation for us. So, blessed love.